Hello, this is a Sun Sport Celtic transfer special. Alongside me, Ryan Rowe, is our sports content editor, David Friel. David, busy 24 hours for Celtic fans. We had the build-up to the Young Boys game, then we had a thriller on the park. Celtic then go and qualify for the Champions League. Meanwhile, in the background, there are so many moving parts with regards to the January transfer window. First up, let's go with the main man, Kyogo. Tell us what you know so far.
Well, he could have had a hat-trick against Young Boys. What a way to sign off. Look, I think, first of all, let's say congratulations to Celtic. Great achievement to get through the next phase of the Champions League. As you said, a frantic night on the pitch. I've never known a post-match like it in all my years, Ryan, I must be honest with you. It felt as if the final whistle went at Celtic Park on Wednesday night and the transfer window opened. Almost immediately news started coming from France that Kyogo was very, very close to a £10 million deal to sign for Rennes. That is correct. I fully expect that to go through. George Sampaoli, the Rennes manager, has already said that he hopes Kyogo will be finalised within the next 24 hours, potentially, as early as Thursday, maybe into Friday, and he wants him to play against Monaco. At the weekend now, that has moved very, very quickly. A lot of Celtic fans out there will be saying, why? Why now? Why not keep him to the end of the season? I think the most pertinent point about this whole thing, this whole transfer, is Kyogo is keen to go. Let's be clear on that. And Brendan Rodgers a couple of weeks ago was really, really interesting that when he was asked about Kyogo's future, and then in more general terms about what if a player decides that he wants to move on.
He's deliberate in what he says, isn't he?
Yeah, of course he is. He always thinks about what he says, Brendan Rodgers, and he basically said, look, I am not going to stand in anyone's way who doesn't want to be here. Kyogo's been great for Celtic, 8 major honours, 85 goals, 3.5 years. What a signing he's been, 4.6 million. And I think he's turned 30. I think he probably wants a crack at a bigger league. I'm not saying he's going to a bigger club, because he's clearly not going to a bigger club, but I think he wants a crack at a bigger league. For Celtic to get £10 million for a player of that age and a player who probably sees his future elsewhere, having done the job of qualifying for the next stage of the Champions League, I think it's very good business. And I fully expect that one to go through. Look, he's going to be a huge loss for Celtic. I dare say Celtic will move, and we'll go on to that in the transfer market to bolster that attacking threat. But yeah, Kyogo's saying au revoir, right?
So, we touched on it. Celtic are going to have to replace him at some point. How quickly, we'll get onto that. But of the players that are there just now, before we go on to some of the moving parts we spoke about, is it Maeda through the middle? Is it Johnny Kenny getting a chance? Or is it going to be Adamida's Celtic team for the immediate future?
I think with the current personnel, it's a bit of everything. I think you'll 100% see Daizen Maeda play through the middle more often. It sometimes gets forgotten that he signed for Celtic as a central striker. He was the top goal scorer in the J-League just before he signed. Player of the year over there. At the World Cup in 2022, he was Japan's number 1, number 9, if that makes sense, through the middle, ahead of Kyogo. Brendan Rodgers has always talked up his attributes at playing there. And to be honest with you, I think Daizen Maeda has attributes to play out wide, but I think he's probably looks a bit more comfortable through the middle. And I think with Brendan Rodgers looking to add more wingers, I think you'll see him play through the middle. Adamida came on last night. I know he claimed the goal. It wasn't his goal. However, he will get more chances. And I don't think it's any coincidence that this Kyogo news and just the interest in the last month or so has coincided with Adamida getting more games, more starts. So I think you'll see Adamida play. And also Johnny Kenny, young player, did so well on loan at Shamrock Rovers. He's been on the bench a few times. He also wasn't eligible to play against Young Boys for Celtic, but I think he'll get a chance as well. And you never know, Celtic will probably look at the market as well to bring in, whether it's a player that can play through the middle or out wide. But I think for the time being, it'll be Daizen Maeda and Adamida will be the main two.
So that's for the time being. The other big talking point, probably maybe actually preceded some of the things last night, was we've got Kieran Tierney coming back, but another hoops hero, Jota, perhaps on his way back to Glasgow.
Yeah, as I said, it was so frantic after the game, and I started getting kind of hearing whispers about Jota that we tried to firm up, myself and Robert Grieve, and we kind of got to the bottom of it eventually. That I think this one still got a bit to go, but that Celtic were interested in bringing Jota back if they could. It was, I think, the best way to do it. The best way to talk about it is they're exploring the possibility, what it would mean. Now, I do think in terms of the financials, if you look at Jota's career since leaving Celtic, also went to Saudi Arabia, a huge transfer, huge money. then moved to League One with Rennes. Coincidentally, Jota, the club Kyogo's going to. It's not worked out for him. He's made 10 appearances. He's not really hit the ground running. I think, again, George Sampaoli today has said that he will be moving on. And I think Celtic are just looking to see what it would take, what kind of deal, what the structure of the deal would be, wages, money, loan, all that sort of stuff. But 100% Celtic have asked the question, and we need to watch that one with interest. I know in France they're almost talking about it's a done deal, one will be going one way, one will be the other. I don't know if it's that close yet. Things are fast moving, as you can see over the last 24 hours. However, he's definitely a player that Celtic are looking at, and I think he's one that, having lost one fan's favourite in Kyogo, if you could get Jota back for Celtic, I think it'd be huge. Yeah,
it looks like a tremendous window, and we're talking about, so Jota of course wouldn't be a replacement for Kyogo.
Yeah.
The man who might be that is a name we actually have heard before.
Yeah.
Danish striker Matthijs Kvistgaarden from Brøndby, 14 goals this season. How much are we aware of Celtic's interest?
Yeah, I mean, our colleague Robert Thompson brought us the story on Thursday morning. Again, so much has happened after this game. Celtic have a long-standing interest in Kvistgaarden. He, young Danish striker, or can play off a wing as well. As you say, prolific at that level, good under 21 experience. Celtic first showed an interest in him maybe a year, 18 months ago. I've always tracked his progress. Now, Brøndby have always held firm. And speaking to a few guys in Denmark, they are still holding firm. You know, they want, if they're going to sell Kvistgaarden in this window, they want big money. Now, it might end up that Celtic, if they pursue it further in the sense that they go and make a formal offer, will have to pay the bulk of that Kyogo money to get Kvistgaarden. But again, he's definitely on the list. He's definitely a player that Celtic admire within the ranks, within the scouting department. And he's a player who would fit the profile for Celtic as well. At his age, big tall boy, strong, scores goals, can play off a side, can play through the middle. So I think if you're looking for the identical Celtic signing over the course of the last few windows, then I think Matthijs Kvistgaarden would be the one. There is other interest in him. Eintracht Frankfurt have been heavily linked with him, so I think if Celtic, as I said, if they're going to get a deal done for him, I think they're going to have to pay a fair bit of money and move quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's Arne Engels missed a penalty last night, but £11 million. But again, the view is still eventually he'll be sold for a profit, so it might be 9-10 millions for Kvistgaarden, but if he goes for 16, 17, 20, still a profit.
Yeah, and you also need to look at the balancing of the books, because Celtic have already sold Alejandro Bernabé for the guts of £5 million. Kyogo's going to bring in about 10. So, yeah, I think it's just the going rate. If you're wanting to sign guys of a profile, and Arne Engels showed that, Austin Trusty showed that, Adam Maeda showed that, then Celtic are going to have to, pay around that 7, 8, 9, 10 million mark. That's just the way the transfer market now. I think Arne Engels, as you mentioned, look, I think he said a raw deal in terms of some of the criticism he's got. I thought in the first half against Young Boys, I thought it was excellent. He misses a penalty. It's the first one. It happens. It wasn't a good penalty. He looked demoralised. I think it did affect him. But his teammates got around him. Look, the substitution when he got taken off, I think it was the right decision. But he's a guy who will get better. He can only get better the longer he settles. But as I said, that's the profile Celtic are looking. They've clearly shown Celtic in the last couple of windows they're willing to spend money on the right player. A guy like Kvistgaarden, for me, would be as I said, the identical signing in this window.
So a name that, if that's the top of the park, we go back to the defence, a name that every Celtic fan knows, and it seems like fish and chip paper from weeks ago, Kieran Tierney. Yeah. Where are Celtic at with regards to Kieran Tierney, and how intrinsically linked is Greg Taylor's future to Kieran Tierney? Yeah,
Greg Taylor, I think, will see out the season at Celtic. I would be stunned, absolutely astounded if Greg Taylor was to leave Celtic in January. With Kieran Tierney, where are Celtic? I think they're very, very, very close to agreeing or announcing a pre-contract deal. My colleague Derek McGregor has been all over this story right from the start and has said consistently that Celtic are as close as they can be. There's a lot of kind of reports coming out down south. I don't think things have moved on in a sense that Celtic potentially any closer to getting him in this month. He has played a lot for Arsenal in the last few weeks. Arsenal obviously challenging in various fronts, still in the league, and obviously want to do well in the Champions League. Mikel Arteta might just feel he wants him for the rest of the season. That's fair enough. So I don't know in terms of bringing him in this month. I think that might be a long shot. However, I think the pre-contract will get done. I think Kieran Tierney will pledge his future to Celtic and be a Celtic player come the summer, if not earlier.
So you're looking potentially there, Celtic fans, at bringing back Jota, potentially bringing back Kieran Tierney and a replacement for Kyogo. It's quite the window. Don't want to run before we can walk. Kieran Tierney comes back quickly before we go. Does he retire from Scotland duty?
No, I don't think he does. Robert Grieve made this point a few weeks ago. I still think there is plenty of life left in Kieran Tierney's Scotland career. I think he can juggle both. I think Celtic will be, especially to begin with, very careful with his loading, how many games he plays and all that sort of stuff. But no, I think he's got a future for Scotland and Celtic beyond this summer.
Very lastly then, before we go, was Dai's and Maeda's red card.
Yeah, it was his. I referred to it in the paper as his Beckham moment, but he's a very polite young man and was straight on to social media to apologise for causing the team some uncertainty in that final part of the game. But look, he'll get a rest against Aston Villa next week. I thought again he was really strong performance from him again. What a teammate he is for the Celtic team. Just puts absolutely everything into the game. Look, he lashed out and it was a deserved red card. Let's be honest. No harm done though.
Yep, so stay tuned because we will have a Rangers transfer special in the coming days. But in the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe and stay tuned to Sun Sport for all your latest news and views.